All right. Hey everyone. Welcome back. It's been a couple weeks and we're coming back with a big episode that I'm super excited about. We have Mehra, who's the co-founder um, of Bait of Hope. And I should introduce myself. My name is Rem Hellman. I'm a rising junior at Tufts University, majoring in international relations. And this is Keeping Democracy Alive, episode 12, I believe, which is a social justice oriented podcast that I've kind of been fooling around with during COVID. And I'm very privileged to be in Tufts Hillel because they've been helping me through this whole thing, specifically the Cummings Foundation. So yeah, that's like my backstory. Very unplanned, very sporadic. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it over to Mehra. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, Mehra. Talk about where you're from. Like tell them about what you just told me about where you're from, your story about going to Switzerland. Yeah, you got it. I'm gonna pass it over.
So hello everyone. Hi, Rem. Hello to you, and thanks for having me.
Of course.
I'm in Geneva right now. I'm the co-founder of Bait of Hope. I'm originally from Iran. I was born in Iran, landed in Switzerland, and I've been living here since the age of 10. I'm the chair and co-founder of Bait of Hope, a Swiss organization, non-profit organization that supports grassroots initiatives of peace building, dialogue, nonviolence in Israel and Palestine. We are 8 co-founders from different origins, 3 Jews, 3 Arabs, an Indian and myself. We're all Swiss, but from these different backgrounds. We all work on a volunteer basis for Bait of Hope, trying to give visibility to these amazing initiatives on the ground, giving them also funds for the project, trying to build also some synergies between them so that they can help each other and share best practices, etc. We believe that change will come from bottom up in Israel and Palestine, and the importance is to change the hearts and minds of people from both sides.
So Mehra was, as she said, born in Iran and then moved to Switzerland, and she's from a Muslim background. Yet, she was telling me, and this is something you can learn about through videos that Bait of Hope have, that in Switzerland, the Jewish, as you told me, the Jewish and Muslim communities, they very often are interacting with one another. They play sports together, they'll go out together, they'll do everything together. But when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's kind of something they push to the side and avoid because they don't want to offend anyone. But Mehra actually got past that and ended up marrying a Jew herself. So I'm wondering, Mehra, if you can talk about how that influenced you or maybe change your perspective on things that you might have otherwise not had believed if you'd never married a Jew. And 2, what your situation means for others if they potentially relaxed and talked about things with other people.
Well, actually, my personal family situation has nothing to do with what I do because both my husband and I are very secular, and we believe in good values and human values. So that's what's bringing us together, and it doesn't really pose a problem. It didn't pose a problem when we wanted to get married. And
yeah.
We were lucky that it was not a problem for our families either. What really inspired me was the activists on the ground, the peace activists that my husband and I met by chance. Somebody introduced us to them during one of our first family trip to Israel, just to sightsee basically and see some friends. it's the inspiration came from the people on the ground. We met so many people who were willing to put themselves at risk, and do this work of bridge building together, and by being involved in joint initiatives. And we thought, how come we never hear of that? How come the bad news always makes the news, and these constructive initiatives, we rarely hear about them?
Yeah.
So when we came back, we decided to invite them to Geneva, and basically I made it my mission to give visibility to these people.
Yeah. And just to confirm, that's the Shorashim based out of Gush Etzion, correct?
The first activists that we met were the people from Judur, Shorashim, Roots, grassroots Israeli-Palestinian initiative that's based in Gush Etzion and Beit Umar.
Okay.
On a tiny piece of land that belongs to a Palestinian family.
And for anyone who's not aware, Gush Etzion is in the West Bank. In the West Bank, so we provide background for people who might not know.
Yeah, so the West Bank is divided in 3 areas, Area A, B, and C. And Area C is where many settlements are. And the Israeli participants or founders of Roots are residents of settlements. And when I saw these meetings or these activities between Israeli settlers and Palestinians, I thought, wow, this exists. And it was not exactly about agreeing about everything. It was more, as the Palestinian founder of this initiative used to say it, dialogue is the safest place to argue. At least you don't kill each other, but you can disagree. And, by having a dialogue, at some point you reach to, first of all, you get to hear each other's narrative, and then maybe at some point you will reach an agreement about something.
Yeah. Do you mind if I read the quote that you guys have from Ali Abu Awad, who I'm assuming is the person you were just referring to? So
Yes.
Ali Abu Awad is the founder of Tagir movement, and he was also the co-founder of Shorashim. And he has this quote that I think really encompasses what you guys are intending on. Just like what your intentions are with your programming and with your organization. So the quote goes, "When violence is put aside, dialogue becomes possible. We don't have to agree in dialogue. It is just a secure place for argument. Dialogue is a place where 2 truths can meet. It is a place where one can accept that the painful price of peace is cheaper than the terrible price of war. It is a place where peace can be achieved. And finally, peace is a place where we can live by accepting our differences and respecting each other's rights." It's a pretty powerful quote. It's pretty amazing. And I think too often people are, and this isn't just in Israel and just with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? Like, as a white person, I can go and talk to a Ku Klux Klan member and have a very open conversation with them, and everything's cordial and friendly. And then maybe as soon as they figure out I'm Jewish, that's when they would get aggressive. So why is that, right? Why are we letting these stigmas about other people get in front of real dialogue, real conversation, real connection? So can you talk more about the various things that you've sponsored, the various events that you've put on? Let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah, we exist only since 2016. So far, we've had 2 major fundraising evenings, galas, where we host in general 400 plus, maybe 500 people. These evenings are, everybody comes there, our Jewish friends in Geneva, Arab friends, international expats. Geneva is a very international place. Swiss locals, they all come in support of constructive initiatives. What inspires them is that we're not about denouncing one side or the other, and rather we're there in support of courageous and inspiring activists from both sides on the ground. So we do our fundraising through those events, and then we distribute funds to different initiatives that apply to our funds. In 4 years, at the start there were only 3 organizations. Today we have 16 grantees, and they all tackle the peace issue, or they're all trying to make a difference from different angles. There's the whole list of our grantees on our website, which is BAIT, and we spell BAIT, B-8.
We'll link it below.
Okay, so you have the whole list of grantees there, and there are different projects. Some projects are real workshops, activities. Sometimes there are documentaries that we fund. We partly funded a documentary called Warriors for Peace by a French filmmaker, Hannah Assouline. It's about the movement Women Wage Peace in Israel. Women Wage Peace is a movement of women from all walks of life, Israeli women who are, from, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, who partner with women from the West Bank, and they have these big marches, and they're all very different. They're from the right, from the left of the political spectrum in Israel, or they're all different, but they agree about one thing: is that they want the peace. They want the negotiations back into the political agenda. They all agree that they just want the wars and the cycles of violence from both sides to end. So that movie, we partly funded it, and it became a really good tool for them to use, for presentations, etc. So there are different ways that we help. Funds for activities, visibility, networking opportunities, capacity building opportunities.
Yeah. This kind of ties back to what you were saying before, right? You made mention of the fact that you were shocked that the news is always covering the bad and never the good. Why do you think that is? Because now 4 years later, there's not only more good, but it's still not, sorry, I'm so sorry. There's not only more good, but there's more coverage as well. There's more access than ever to social media and to news platforms. Everyone has a phone in their hands, yet it's always the bad things. It's always trying to throw shots at other people, trying to take a side, and so why do you think that is?
I don't know, but things are shifting. For example, there is one of our grantees, actually 2 of them, the Bereaved Parents Circle, who are about bereaved families from both sides who refuse to see each other as enemies, and who got together to fund this organization that they're part of, and to talk about their experience and how they work together to make the region a better place. Them and the Combatants for Peace, who are about ex-Israeli militaries and former Palestinian fighters who gave up violence and weapons to join their forces to work together. So these 2 entities have a ceremony on the Israeli Memorial Day, where they grieve together and they pay tribute to their beloved ones together. So this year their ceremony broke a record. They were afraid that they wouldn't get as many people since the ceremony couldn't happen physically in Tel Aviv. They went virtual, and they were afraid not to get enough people. And this year, I think they were almost 2,100 people.
Yeah.
So I think things are shifting, and maybe because today everybody is on social media and that are using virtual medium to communicate, maybe things will change and there will be more visibility.
Yeah, and I mean, change is also, it comes with the arrival of new generations. So hopefully when the youth like me come up, um, they're more willing and understanding to listen to other sides like you're preaching.
The role of youth and everybody abroad is not to add oil to the conflict by being pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. If you love that place, if you have a connection to that place through your roots, through your religion, it's much more helpful to be pro a peaceful and just coexistence and to help those who are trying to make a difference on the ground. This is much more productive than being against or being only for one side.
I agree. I fully agree. Can you talk a little bit about the new edition of the youth group that you guys have? You guys have the Bait of Hope Youth.
Yes, so I mean, it's really starting. It's our project. We realized throughout the recent years that we have a lot of young, brilliant students from amazing universities in Europe or in Canada or in the US who are reaching us to us for internships. And they want to stay connected with us even when they finish their internships. So we are working on creating a network of young people all over, all over the world, and mainly in Europe and in the US and Canada, so that they remain connected. They all have this Bait of Hope experience that they are very moved by, motivated by. So to try and structure it and put more a framework and have them spread the message of Bait of Hope on their campuses and among their circles of friends. So that's the idea. We have not concretely started yet, and we have two young women, amazing young women in mind, Noah and Yara, an Israeli and a Palestinian, who will probably be the leaders of that group.
We got to bring that to Tufts. We got to make sure that we get, yeah, definitely.
I will share with you a podcast that we had recently. They happened to be in Europe throughout the COVID time, and I managed to bring them to Geneva a month ago for them to see each other before heading back home and having to be in quarantine, etc. And we took the opportunity to have a podcast that I'm happy to share with you, and you can hear their voice and their stories that are the story of their friendship is very, very touching.
Please do, and I will also link that below as well.
Okay.
So yeah, there's so much. I think it's really interesting because you were talking about how you specifically made mention when I brought up youth, how it's not our role to add fuel to the fire, right? Like we should be wanting peace, right? And if you do, I think everyone does want peace, but people also think that some people believe that more radical, more extreme routes are better. And it's interesting that you said that because I am definitely an optimist myself. I get that from my dad. I'm an idealist. I hope and I think that the world can get better, especially when I talk to people like you. And I think that people of my generation are just generally a lot more open and understanding of one another. But it's also very interesting because on both, specifically with Israel and Palestine, there's some, I mean, it's not like there's something, it's a complicated and difficult conflict that's been going on for way too long. So I understand the anger and the emotion that's involved. But specifically with this, there's, even on my college campus, there's a lot of butting heads, right? There's a lot of if I'm with my Jewish friends and we see like a BDS, not me, honestly, I stay out of this conversation, but I'll hear them, like my Jewish friends will see a BDS movement or protest and be like, oh my God, like what are those people doing? And it's the same thing with the BDS people and APAC, right? There's like these two sides, and I see people of my age getting drawn to one side, getting drawn to the other side. Um,
Unfortunately, the first victims of BDS are the activists themselves, who are denounced because they're considered, BDS considers these, humanization efforts, these bridge building efforts as what they call normalization.
well, it's
So,
not only BDS, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like, I hope I can say this on like Tough Hilal's page, but like I feel like as a Jew, often I hear Jewish parents and Jewish kids my age doing, and I'm not saying this is what you were doing, but kind of saying it's the other side, right? Like, look at what BDS is doing. Like, they're not willing to find peace, but also like I have plenty of Jewish friends who I there's a large Jewish community. This is a perfect example, who will say like Black Lives Matter, but I won't support the Black Lives Matter movement because the Black Lives Matter movement supports the BDS movement. And like that's where it's like, okay, um, we need to maybe reevaluate the thinking that we have here, because what progress are we going to get when we're constantly denouncing another side for what they believe in, right? And yeah, go ahead.
in general, I'm not in favor of boycotts because I don't think they're productive at the end, but in some countries, maybe they were.
Yeah.
But talking of my own country, boycotting Iran did not really help the US or help the Iranian people. But I think that it's always better to be pro something that's positive and constructive rather than being against. Rather, it's always better than to be inclusive rather than being exclusive. You have to always, promote something that appeals to the mainstream. If you want to only talk to like-minded people, it doesn't help. You have to promote something that touches the heart and minds of the mainstream, because these complicated conflicts, they get resolved when the mainstream is touched and wants a change.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I hear you. Um, yeah.
But in any case, we're not political. We are all about humanization. So we anybody who is part of an initiative that wants to create a positive change that contributes to changing the conditions on the ground, we are all about including them and listening to their solution, what they offer, what's their way of tackling the issue.
Can we talk about some of those ways? I know that one thing that you guys support is, if I'm not mistaken, you have like a music program where people sing together. So can you talk about? And I know you guys have like farming things too, where people
Yes.
plant together. So
The Jerusalem Youth Chorus, that's a very dynamic and fun initiative based in Jerusalem. Actually, the founder and the director is based in Washington, D.C., and he spent half of his time in Israel and the other half in the U.S. I'm happy to introduce him to you. His name is Micah Handler. They do bridge building through music. Another organization that we sponsor, and they are musical, it's called Polyphony Foundation. They're based in Nazareth, and they believe that music brings people together. And we have other organizations that are more about education, such as the Teachers Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a program, you know how the education program is very segregated in Israel. You know, if you're a religious Jew, you will go to your religious school. If you're secular, you go. If you're an Arab Israeli, you will go to a different school. So this program brings teachers from all sorts of schools together. They go through this program together, including with Palestinians from the West Bank. And then they learn about each other's narratives, and then they have an amazing impact in the classroom. So as a teacher, if you can, you know, have an impact on the future through your students, that's amazing. We have other projects that are more connected to the land, to you know, agriculture, to change, to you know, anything that makes things different on the ground for a better future. It's all related. It will make a difference when it comes to peaceful coexistence, etc.
Yeah, I mean, you keep mentioning the word humanization, right? All it's doing is, it could be literally, I'm sitting right here next to a table. It could be carpentry, right? It could be building a table with someone who I might think differently than, right? And it just shows we do the same kind of things. We're all human. We're all looking to live life happily, have love in our life. So there's no reason to hate one another.
We have, you know, we don't only sponsor or help or support organizations that do joint work. We are also helping organizations that are doing purely Palestinian work, such as the Tahrir movement, which is all about nonviolence identity. It's all about, you know, you're allowed to be angry, but channel your anger rather than being controlled by it, to make a difference for your own society, to build something positive for your own society. By, you know, Tahrir is teaching the sense of civism to Palestinian youth, to Palestinian communities. There is another organization called Zimam. It's also about Zimam is about training future leaders. I mean, there are so many of them. I'm sure I'm forgetting many of them, and I hope they will forgive me. But they're all on our website, and they're all so inspiring, and they keep us going in Geneva. It's their work that make us, you know, not give up and continue raising money for them and finding support for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's don't be hard on yourself. You've already named like what, 20 throughout this interview, 20 different at least. It's impressive. I was thinking, like, how do you manage all this? Like,
I'm like a mom who has many children, and she's counting them to make sure nobody's left out.
it's like 101 have you seen the movie 101 Dalmatians?
Yes.
It's like that.
That's me.
Yeah. I'm curious as to, I generally like to know a little bit, like talk to people a little bit about their background, because a common trend amongst most people who I've talked to is there's either someone in their life, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, a kid, like, or something that happened to them that led them down this path of thinking about the world in a more um, bliss way. I don't know, and in a light way, and trying to see the good in everything. So,
Well,
what is that for you?
as I said, I am a Muslim Iranian, born in Iran, raised in a very secular family. Then I landed in Switzerland when I was 10, 11. I was in a boarding school run by Catholic nuns, and they were amazing. Usually people have this idea of a Catholic school. They were the most tolerant nuns that I have ever seen. And in that boarding school, we were people girls from Iran, from Lebanon, from African countries at war. We were all there for the same reasons. We were, there to have a safe place to study and, just move on with our lives in a safe place.
Yeah.
And, this built a common ground to all of us. And the nuns would never impose Catholicism on us. They were very open. They would encourage us to talk about our countries, our backgrounds, our religions. And I think this was the place where my mind opened up to the world, because there were so many people from everywhere. There was this friend from Haiti. Growing up in Iran, I had never heard of Haiti, and
So do you think that's also attributed to like Switzerland? Is Switzerland just generally just, yeah?
Of course. I mean, Geneva is an oasis of peace. Switzerland is amazing. Different religions, 4 languages, people living together. Everything is by consensus, and coalition. The government is a coalition always. So to have this model of life and model of country political system, of course it has an impact on every citizen here. We take it for granted, but we always forget that this place is just amazing. Of course it has its flaws, but it's a true model.
Unfortunately, Mehra, we're running out of time, so I have one last question. But we definitely have to stay in touch, because this is amazing. And I'm glad that we got in touch in the first place. It was pretty spontaneous. It was just through a quick email that my mom sent me, and then that was awesome. So my last question that I ask everyone in a different capacity, catered to them, is, in what way can people like me, i.e. college students, just the average person, in what way can the average person help? Beyond donations is one thing, but beyond donations, is it, if I see something in someone being hateful, should I go and talk to them? Or
listen, spreading the message of Beit of Hope, inviting you can choose activists, an organization that appeals more to you, invite them by Zoom to you, among your friends, see the films. I can share the link of the Warriors for Peace, and have a panel with the filmmaker and the protagonist of the film. I mean, now with everything, all of this has become so easy, thanks to Zoom. So just open up to these opportunities. Please reach out to me and tell me, I would like to have a Zoom with so and so from this initiative of yours, A Land for All, 2 States, 1 Homeland, or Women Wage Peace, or Combatants for Peace, or Zima, and we can organize sessions. We can be a circle of friends, and we organize it for you. Just spreading the message is the most important thing for us, and giving more visibility to our proteges among your circles, to spread out the word.
Okay.
That's the best way to help.
Yeah.
And there's another film, Disturbing the Peace, which is about the combatant, which features the combatants for peace. I'm not sure if it's still on Netflix, but it has a website, Disturbing the Peace, and you can buy the link and maybe have a screening among friends, and then discuss about it, or invite the film director and producers. They're based in the US. They are in New Jersey, Steve Apken and Marcina Hale. They'll be happy to answer to your questions about this film that is about really humanization. What humanization can do to you. It transforms you, and then you see that the other is just a human being like you.
You're really an inspirational person. I gotta be honest.
Thank you.
You're just
Thank you. I'm blushing. I'm not the
you
true
give off
inspiring people are those on the ground and those who are,
yeah, but don't sell yourself short because you you're the one you're trying to tie everything together and make everything come together, and I think it's really amazing. And you just give off this really amazing energy of just like excitement for the future and for like positivity to come. So thank you so much for talking. It was
thank you.
really an honor, and we'll definitely stay in touch. Um, and exactly like you said, this semester is going to be so new, um, where everything is going to be pretty much remote. And even if you are on campus, everything's going to be remote. So I'm sure that you and I can work something out to have more educational sessions amongst uh, fellow college students and kind of just get the dialogue going on campus.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks. Bye.